Why chasing happiness is your biggest mistake. Schopenhauer's truth. What if I told you that the very thing you're chasing, happiness, is the reason you're miserable? That every motivational quote, every podcast, every "you got this" hustle culture mantra has it exactly backwards. That the moment you set your sights on happiness as a goal, you guarantee your own suffering. But that's not just a provocative idea, it's a philosophical bombshell. And it's one Arthur Schopenhauer dropped centuries ago. He wasn't trying to depress us, he was trying to wake us up. And once you see what he saw, you may realize that your entire approach to life has been built on a dangerous illusion, one that promises joy and delivers anxiety. Let's start with a question that seems simple but isn't. What is happiness really? We often treat it like a destination, something we can reach if we work hard enough, if we optimize our habits, earn enough money, find the right partner, then we'll finally go on that dream vacation. But here's the paradox. The moment we want happiness, we admit that we lack it. Chasing happiness creates a gap between who we are and who we think we should be. And that gap becomes suffering. It becomes wanting. And for Schopenhauer, that was the core of human existence, not fulfillment, not joy, but will. An endless, restless, irrational, blind force that keeps us moving, grasping, needing, but never arriving. Think about your own life. How often do you get what you want, only to find yourself wanting something else almost immediately? You finally get the job, but now you want a promotion. You start dating someone amazing, but eventually you crave novelty. You buy something new, but the thrill fades. That's not a bug in the system, it is the system. Schopenhauer believed that human life is defined not by satisfaction but by striving. And satisfaction, when it does arrive, is brief, boring and empty. As he put it, life swings like a pendulum between pain and boredom. Pain when we lack something, boredom when we get it. Now I know what you're thinking, this sounds bleak. But here's where Schopenhauer becomes truly revolutionary. He forces us to confront the truth that most of us are trying to escape, that happiness isn't something we can catch because it was never meant to be caught. It's a trick of the will, a mirage, and the more intensely we chase it, the more we suffer. That doesn't mean life is meaningless. It means we're asking the wrong question. Instead of "how can I be happy?" maybe the real question is, how can I stop needing to be happy all the time?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is where the modern world completely misleads us. We live in a society that weaponizes happiness. It tells you that if you're not smiling, you're broken. That if you're not living your best life, you're failing. That if you're not constantly growing, you're dying. But what if growth isn't always good? What if desire isn't always noble? What if the real strength isn't in striving endlessly, but in learning how to let go of the need to strive at all? Schopenhauer's truth is raw. The will to live, the force that drives all existence, is fundamentally irrational. It doesn't care about your happiness. It just wants to keep going. It wants more. More pleasure, more security, more validation. But here's the twist, it can never be satisfied. Because satisfaction kills desire, and desire is what keeps the will alive. So no matter what you achieve, the will just shifts the goalpost. It moves the finish line. You're always running towards something that disappears the moment you get close. So here's the deep, haunting question. What if happiness is not a place you arrive at, but a side effect of forgetting the need to arrive anywhere at all. We've been trained to think that happiness is the absence of problems. But Schopenhauer would say happiness is the absence of wanting. And that's not the same thing. Wanting is the default human condition. It's what we wake up with. It's what we scroll for. It's what we work for. It's what we eat, drink, and fall in love for. But the more we feed it, the hungrier it becomes. That's the trap. The more you chase happiness, the more it runs away. So what now? If happiness isn't something to pursue, what do we do instead? Just give up? Just stop wanting? That feels impossible, right? And maybe it is. But maybe the point isn't to kill the will. Maybe it's to see it for what it is and to understand its mechanics so deeply that we stop being controlled by it. Maybe real peace comes not from having everything we want, but from realizing we don't need to want everything. In the next part, we're going to explore how this idea changes everything: your goals, your relationships, even your identity. We'll dive into the psychological consequences of living in a desire-driven society and how Schopenhauer's philosophy helps us reclaim our power by surrendering the chase. The hunger that never ends, why desire is the real enemy of peace. Let's face it, desire is everywhere. It's in every ad, every scroll, every conversation that starts with "what do you want to do with your life?" We're told that desire is the fuel of progress, the fire that builds civilizations, the thing that makes us human. But what if that's the biggest lie we've ever believed? What if desire, the very thing we celebrate and chase, is the silent architect of our suffering? That's the truth Schopenhauer dared to speak. He didn't romanticize desire. He called it what it is: an endless hunger, a thirst that grows stronger the more we drink. And if we don't confront this hunger, we become its slaves, forever running, forever restless, forever unsatisfied. Think about the last time you really wanted something. Not just casually, but obsessively. A new phone, a new relationship, a promotion, validation. In that moment, your entire world narrowed. Everything else faded into the background. And then, when you finally got it, what happened? A short-lived high, a brief flicker of satisfaction. And then emptiness, or worse, a new desire immediately rising to take its place. This is the cycle Schopenhauer describes. We are driven by what we lack, and the moment we fill that lack, we feel boredom, emptiness, a void that must be filled again. Desire is not a path to happiness, it's the reason we can't be happy. This hunger is not just personal, it's systemic. Our entire culture is built around the idea that desire is good, that wanting more is a sign of ambition, and that craving something better is how we grow. But Schopenhauer flips the script. Growth driven by desire is not liberation, it's enslavement. Because no matter how much you achieve, the will keeps whispering more. It's like climbing a mountain where the peak keeps rising faster than you can ascend. You're not climbing toward fulfillment. You're climbing away from stillness. Now here's where it gets even deeper. Desire doesn't just shape our goals, it shapes our identity. We define ourselves by what we want. I want to be successful. I want to be loved. I want to matter. Our entire sense of self becomes wrapped around the future, but around lack, around what we don't yet have. But what if that's a trap? What if your true self isn't defined by what you want, but by who you are when you want nothing? Schopenhauer's insight is brutal but freeing. Desire is the veil that hides reality. It distorts our perception. It makes us see the world not as it is, but as a series of stepping stones towards some imagined future state. And in doing so, it pulls us out of the present, the only place where life actually happens. That's the ironic tragedy of desire. It promises fulfillment in the future while robbing us of peace in the present. So what can we do? If desire is the source of suffering, does that mean we should just stop desiring altogether? That sounds impossible, but Schopenhauer wasn't naive. He knew we couldn't simply shut off the will. What he suggested was something more subtle, more powerful. We can recognize desire. We can become aware of how it manipulates us. And in that awareness, we can begin to loosen its grip, not by force, but by insight. Imagine treating your desires like clouds passing through the sky. You see them, you acknowledge them, but you don't chase them. You don't hold on to them. You don't let them define you. That's not passivity. That's mastery. That's the beginning of real peace, not the kind of peace that comes from having everything, but the kind that comes from needing nothing. And here's the most mind-blowing part. The moment you stop chasing happiness, you begin to feel it. Not as a goal, but as a byproduct. Not as a peak experience, but as a quiet presence. It's not loud, it's not Instagrammable, but it's real. And it's yours. In the next part, we'll explore how this philosophy transforms your relationships, your ambitions, and your sense of self. We'll confront the hard truth about love, success, and the myth of finding your purpose. We'll ask the question no one wants to ask: what if the life you think you want is the very thing keeping you from being free? The lie of fulfillment, why success, love, and purpose won't save you. Let's talk about the three pillars that society tells us will complete us: success, love, and purpose. These are the holy grails of modern life. We're told that if we just work hard enough, love deeply enough, and find that one burning passion to live for, we'll finally feel whole. But what if none of that is true? What if, as Schopenhauer argued, these ideals are not salvation, they're illusions? What if the very things we're taught to live for are cleverly disguised extensions of the same? Well, that traps us. Success, love, purpose, they don't free us. They deepen our dependence on desire. They dress suffering up in prettier clothes. Let's start with success. We're conditioned to believe that achievement is the highest form of self-worth. That if we climb the ladder, career, finances, influence, we'll reach a place where we finally feel secure, proud, alive. But that's not how it works. Every achievement quickly becomes the new baseline. You get the job, the title, the house, and suddenly you're eyeing the next thing. Schopenhauer saw this clearly. Ambition is not a sign of strength, but of inner emptiness. It's the will masquerading as progress. And the tragedy is that the more successful you become, the more you fear losing what you've gained. You become a prisoner of your own accomplishments. You live in constant anxiety, afraid of falling, of failing, of being forgotten. So ask yourself, are you chasing success because it fulfills you, or because you're terrified of what you might be without it? Now let's talk about love. This one cuts even deeper. We romanticize love as the ultimate escape from suffering, the one thing that can make life meaningful. But Schopenhauer saw love through a brutal, evolutionary lens. He believed romantic love is not about happiness or connection. It's the will to life trying to reproduce itself. That overwhelming attraction, that longing, that obsession. It's not your soul recognizing its counterpart. It's your biology manipulating your mind. That doesn't mean love isn't real, but it does mean that much of what we call love is driven by unconscious forces beyond our control. And once the desire is fulfilled, once the relationship stabilizes or becomes routine, the passion fades, the boredom returns, the will moves on. So again, we're left with the question, is love really about connection, or is it just another form of craving? And then there's purpose, the most seductive illusion of all. We're told that we must find our why, our mission, our one true calling. But what if that's just another carrot dangled in front of us by the will? What if purpose, as we commonly define it, is just desire with a halo? It gives us something to chase, something to prove, something to validate our existence. But does it ever truly satisfy, or does it just keep us moving, always afraid to stop and stare into the stillness? Schopenhauer would say that the only real purpose is to understand the will, to see it, to study its hold on us, and to liberate ourselves from its tyranny, not by destroying it, but by stepping outside its grip. This doesn't mean that success, love, and purpose are meaningless, but it means they're dangerous when we treat them as saviors. When we confuse them with peace, we suffer. When we attach our identity to them, we become fragile. When we depend on them for happiness, we remain trapped in the cycle of striving and disappointment. Real freedom comes when we see them for what they are, expressions of the will, yes, but not the answer to it. You can succeed, you can love, you can pursue purpose, but don't let them own you. Use them like tools, not like lifelines. So here's the question that might change everything. Who are you without your goals? Without your relationship status? Without your ambitions? If you stripped all that away, what's left? Can you sit with that version of yourself and feel complete? Or does the silence terrify you? In the final part, we're going to explore what Schopenhauer believed was the only real path to peace. We'll talk about art, asceticism, and the radical idea of willing nothing. And we'll end with a challenge so deep it might change how you see your entire life. The art of letting go, how to escape the will and find real peace. So we've arrived at the final and most difficult question. If chasing happiness, success, love, and purpose only deepens our suffering, what's left? What's the alternative? Schopenhauer didn't leave us empty-handed. In fact, his answer is one of the most profound and counterintuitive insights in all of philosophy. Peace doesn't come from satisfying the will, it comes from quieting it. Not by force, not by denial, but by understanding, detachment, and a different way of being in the world. The goal is not to conquer life, but to see through it. And that, he believed, is where true freedom begins. Schopenhauer pointed to two great escapes from the tyranny of the will, art and asceticism. Art, he said, is the moment when we stop wanting and start contemplating. When we're immersed in music, beauty, or a powerful story, we forget ourselves. We stop thinking about what we lack, what we desire, what we're chasing. For a brief moment, we're free. We're simply present, fully absorbed in something outside the will. That's why great art feels almost sacred. It lifts us out of the endless hunger of life and gives us a glimpse of stillness. But for Schopenhauer, the deeper path, the one few dare to walk, is asceticism. Not necessarily living in a cave or renouncing all pleasure, but training yourself to want less, and to gradually detach from desires, to stop identifying with every craving, every impulse, every ache for more. This isn't about suffering. It's about clarity. It's about realizing that the will is not you. It's a force you were born into, but it doesn't have to define your existence. You can observe it. You can step back. You can, little by little, let it go. And here's the paradox: the more you let go, the more peace you feel. Not because you've gained something new, but because you've stopped needing so much. No more chasing. No more comparing. No more living in the shadow of some imagined future. Just being here, now, fully, quietly. And in that stillness you discover something the will can never give you. Not excitement, not triumph, but a calm so deep it feels like truth. This isn't a path for everyone. It requires courage, not the kind to fight dragons, but the kind to face your own emptiness and not run from it. The kind to sit in silence and not reach for distraction. The kind to say, I don't need more to be enough. So let me leave you with this. What if the secret to happiness is not addition, but subtraction? What if letting go is not loss, but liberation? That's Schopenhauer's truth. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Now the question is, will you dare to live it?